Hey, everybody. Welcome to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT. How is your golf game? How was your golf year? Um, if it was like mine, it was kind of nondescript, but a lot of stuff happening on the pro level right now. And I've asked our friend of the show and good buddy, Gary Van Sickle, to give us a year in review. So, how are you?
I'm great. The older I get, the harder it is to remember what happened during the year, Jeff. Do you have that problem?
It's getting there. It's getting there. I find myself walking from one room to the other and going, why did I come in here? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
that.
if you remember why, then you're still okay.
I'm still okay. Okay. I'll let you know if I remember, I'll
Well,
let you
you
know.
won't. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So we talked about a little bit before we started this, a lot of interesting stuff happening, a lot of changes in the guys tour, the PGA tour out there, changing from, different elevated events and different ways you qualified, cutting down on the numbers in the tournaments, blah, 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 blah. But one thing I want to go after right at the top here, they announced this about a week or two ago that they were banding together with, I think it was 4 or 5 different podcasters to give them access. They don't get any money out of it, to give them access. And I'm not sure the reasoning behind that, honestly. Um, I mean, some of these guys got great shows. They're funny and all that. And a couple of them I scratch my head. But do you think that's kind of the tour trying to reach out to younger people or trying to grasp an audience they've lost a big part of? Bec-
It's an acknowledgement that the mainstream media is dead. Television and movies are circling the drain, just like magazines and newspapers did. I know it sounds crazy, but it's already happened.
yeah,
Uh, you know, my wife and I just the other night watched the Big Red, the Christmas movie with The
right.
Rock. It's actually pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, me
We
too.
watched it on Amazon Prime for free. It's on Amazon Prime for free. The
Right,
movie's been out what, a week, 2 weeks?
right.
It's already on Amazon Prime. You know why? Because that's where the viewers are, not as much in the movie theaters as they used to. I don't have the numbers in front of me of how much the TV ratings are down for golf. I know for the NBA, they're down like another 28% this year. They're way down. But part of both of those, and those aren't the same reasons, but part of both of them is there's fewer people watching TV because the internet and all the various ways to do that, streaming, that's where the viewers have gone. That's where the money's going. So tours trying to get ahead of it a little bit by we need exposure in streaming on the internet. And how can we get that? Well, here's 5 people on the internet who have already got viewership. So let's go
Yeah.
right to them. Now, I don't know if any of that's going to work, if it's going to be good viewing or bad viewing, but that's the thinking. And so it's probably a good idea to try it. I don't know if they pick the right people. We won't know that until we see some of the shows. And I don't know. I don't have Netflix, so I only saw like the first episode of the PGA Tour documentary. And if you're counting on Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth's acting skills and chit chat to make something interesting, uh, you're in for a long day. I'd like to sell you some land in Brooklyn.
Right.
I thought it was and I'm not the right guy to ask because I've been on tour. What goes on behind the scenes to me is nothing magical. I already know what it's like behind the scenes.
Right.
So I'm not interested in that. Maybe the average person is, but I had a hard time staying awake for an hour. So I don't know how the rest of that documentary went, but it's it's tough to get behind the scenes when people know they're on camera. They're always going to be trying to perform and present an image and present their brand, but they're not professional actors.
Right.
So it probably won't end well. We'll see.
I think two things. It's just me, but I think one, the tour's a day late and a dollar short on this.
Well, I wouldn't argue that.
Yeah. And because you were talking about the ratings, the broadcast ratings are down like 30-40%. Uh because the broadcasts themselves are kind of scattered. When you and I were starting out in this crazy world, you went to NBC, CBS, or ABC, and mostly CBS and NBC for golf. That's what you did.
And,
And now,
and Jeff, you knew which tournaments were on which network because they were always the same every
yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah.
And now it's changed so much, you can't even flip a coin to guess which one they're on.
The only couple that you can do that with is the Masters on CBS and the Open on NBC. And other than that, you have no idea really who's got what rights and all that. And I don't know. I think with all the for years, this is the way I looked at it, Gary. For years, golf was kind of this cast in stone type deal. The didn't matter to the tour, but guys played at this level. They would go to Firestone, or they would go to Augusta, or they would go to St. Andrews, and they played at this level. And there wasn't any. One of the things I think drew people to it is there wasn't any contention as far as nitpicking at things and all that. Maybe there was behind the scenes when, like, you were reporting on it, but the general public didn't see that. And now everything's out in the open, and you can see what a lot of these golfers are making a lot of money. I don't begrudge anybody making a lot of money, but if you're complaining because last year you only made 24 million and you think you need another 2 million to play at the Ryder Cup or something, then I think that turns people off.
Well, I think what we've learned, golf has always been at its most interesting time when there's one or two superstars dominating the sport. And it was Arnie, then it was Nicholas, and then honestly the top guy was Norman, even though he didn't win a lot of majors, but he was the guy who moved the needle. And then it was Tiger and Phil, and now both of those guys are gone, and I don't think Rory really moves the needle. If you were going to a tournament, you would go watch Rory. Would you, if you heard Rory was playing in a tournament, would you go buy tickets? Maybe in Europe. I don't think in America as much,
Yeah,
but the one guy that's left who moves the needle, before he got here, you may recall Bryson DeChambeau,
right.
when he was bulked up and hitting at 390 yards, he was the second coming. People were buying tickets and running out to watch this guy, this mutant freak, hit at 390, and he was the show on the PGA Tour there for a year and a half. Then he had bad health because of what he had done, and he
Right.
backed off. Then he signed with Liv because he wasn't sure if he wasn't damaged goods. He took the guaranteed money basically, and now with Liv, he's in the witness protection program. We don't see him but 4 times a year, but he's gone on the internet. He's still the one guy that moves the needle more than anybody in golf. He's just not on the PGA Tour. But
Right.
I think the other thing we learned was it's underrated, but the real star of all these PGA Tour events in most cases is the tournament itself. The AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. We're used to that tournament. We know the course. We know where it's played. Colonial isn't a big tournament anymore, but we know the course. We know everything about it. We're comfortable. It's like a pair of old slippers.
Yeah.
The Memorial Tournament at Muirfield Village. These tournaments, the Phoenix Open and Saturday at the Phoenix Open, and all that comes with it, and Torrey Pines, whatever the name is, the Farmers Championship. We know the courses and we're comfortable. We go back to the same spots every year. And that's part of the attraction. Uh, I think that keeps people interested versus Live, where, and I don't want to get into a Live discussion really, but Live goes different courses every year. They have different dates. The tournaments don't even have names. You
Yeah.
know, first of all, you couldn't probably, the average person couldn't name 5 Live tournaments. And if they did, I mean, they certainly couldn't name 5 courses where they were playing. They have no brand identity. And I think that's part of the appeal of the PGA Tour is
Yeah.
that continuity. and we've gotten to know these courses and some of the wrinkles on them. But you're right, where the TV has failed because of the PGA Tour, the commentary and the production and all that it's not, if you're counting on us to be mesmerized by guys hitting balls with sticks, we've gotten a lot more. I'm stealing that line from Dan Jenkins, by the way.
Right, right, right.
Big guys hitting balls with sticks. That we're not as mesmerized by that anymore because they all hit it ridiculously far, which I think makes it less interesting because they're hitting wedge all day. But we need a little more entertainment value. And you don't have to bring in a stand-up comedian, but we need to get rid of these, everybody on there is a former golfer and they're all into the golf part. Whether it's Billy Ray Brown or somebody reading a putt saying, "Oh, Jimmy, this putt's going to break to the left at first, but at the end, I think it's going to go back right, and I think it's going to be surprisingly quick." And I don't know if Joe Schlabotnik's going to wreck it. As a viewer, I don't care. I don't care what the line of the putt is. Just tell me this is a hard putt. He's going to get fooled, or he's going to
Yeah,
make it. I don't care. And then the guy hits the putt. Oh, great call, Billy Ray. As if you tell me something interesting.
yes,
And that's where they fail, because if they do have anybody on there to, let's just say hypothetically, if I was on the air being Van cynical and sarcastic and cracking one-liners, the tour doesn't like that. The tour wants vanilla pudding. They want their brand to be crystal pure.
yes,
Nobody on the golf has ever drank a beer or gotten arrested or done anything bad. They don't want that. So it's the PGA Tour's fault that the entertainment value is somewhat lacking on these broadcasts, where the audience has a higher standard of entertainment now than it used to.
absolutely. We're going to take a break. I'm going to be back with Gary Van Sickle in our yearly wrap-up show right after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to Grilling at 3. I'm JT. We've got a friend of show, commentator deluxe there, Gary Van Sickle, with us. Anybody ever offer you a TV job?
Not really, no. I did something on TV during the Skins game in Hawaii one year, only because Sports Illustrated had a deal with TNT, and that show is micromanaged down to, you wouldn't believe, in between shots, they have all this stuff planned. I had to walk along for 12 holes until, I was like the sideline reporter who at a football game, but instead of reporting like breaking news, I'm telling my little spiel from the newspaper on Thursday, well, and Davis Love's son Drew was going to caddy for him this week, but he broke his foot playing basketball, and he's blah blah blah, and he can't do it this week. With 90 seconds, and back to you. And then, ironically, later in the round, Drew Love was there somewhere, and Bobby Clampett was one of the guys from TNT, and he was a walking foot soldier, and he's like, "Well, Drew, Gary just told us a little while ago that blah blah." And I'm sure Drew Love is like, "Who the hell is Gary?
Yeah.
What are you talking?" It's not like I had gone to Drew Love to get the story. I was just using, they wanted some kind of nugget, and that's what I said. I gave them a couple things, and they won't like that one. So that's one of my pet peeves, by the way, is you have a sideline reporter at the football game. Your job is to tell me something that you've learned on the sideline, not to give me some stuff out of a feature story that in Thursday's newspaper that the guys in the booth could tell me. We don't need you for that. But, they got to find something for these sideline reporters to do, who are by a large majority are women, which doesn't make anything. But, they should be over on the sideline eavesdropping and talking to the team doctor and anybody getting any kind of in they can to give us information. But
Amari Cooper twisted his ankle. He won't be back, that type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's a guy in the tent. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you go stand by the tent and eavesdrop on outside and see what you hear and tell us?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Now, maybe you get fired after that, but at least serve a purpose. That's my
serve a
thing.
purpose.
So let me edit my answer to your previous question. Have I ever been offered a job on TV? Let me edit that. No,
No.
that's what I
Okay.
should have said. No.
Okay. Okay. Excuse me. LPGA's got a new commissioner um coming up. I think Molly's deal is over the 9th of January or something like that, if I read the dates right. And they're now looking for a new commissioner. Um,
I'm available, but I don't think they'll call me.
that'll go along with your TV career.
Yes.
No, yeah, I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because there seemed to be a lot of grumblings in the rank and file about some of the stuff she was doing. Don't they ever take that into consideration when they actually hire somebody?
Um, well,
Maybe.
I don't know what went on behind the scenes and why she got the job, but I think they were looking for a certain kind of person who fit certain metrics for appearances and had maybe certain political beliefs, blah blah. You know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah,
They wanted somebody to look the part of their ideals, and maybe they could get the job. I think the Solheim Cup probably was the end of. It was a disaster. They couldn't get people parked into the course,
right.
and this is your premier event, and you bungled it. How do you do that? And they've jacked the purses up. A lot of sponsors have said, well, let's get behind this cause and raise the sponsorship value. And um, so they've done that, but I don't know but I mean, I don't know if there's more reason than that behind her decision to step down. I thought it was interesting that I've got a year-end review coming up that'll be running in si.com. Who knows when, before the end of the year. But one of the things I noted was it was the year where all the leaders quit leading and quit.
Yeah.
We Seth Watt, the PGA of America, Martin Slumbers at the R&A, Molly at the LPGA. Who am I leaving? I'm leaving two other people out.
Well, you
Oh,
got
Keith Pelly left the European Tour, the DP
European
World
tour.
Tour, to
Yeah.
go back to Canada and work for Toronto Maple Leafs. And I don't know if the European Tour wasn't doing great anyways. Keith is a brilliant guy. I'm really impressed with him. But they probably should have taken a deal with Liv. The European Tour had trouble finding sponsors. They've always been short of money. Can you imagine if they would have said, Liv, you can have your 18 events and they'll be on our tour. Now then the PGA Tour really would have had competition.
Yes.
That would have been a game changer. And I still wouldn't be shocked to see that happen. But everybody, a lot of people, a lot of leaders decided to step down this year, which I guess is coincidence, but maybe it's related to your original topic, like viewership is down. Maybe that's part of it.
Well, I think they've got a model, whether on paper or in their head, that they look at these tours and say, this is what we've done. We've done this for 40 years, whatever. This is what we want. But how you get there has changed. The media, as we've talked about, television and that, you've got the internet. I mean, I can watch an event on my phone, and you can watch it. And they've all gone into the USGA, the PGA, the LPGA. They've all got their own podcast, if you will, i.e., a radio broadcast. And then you've got Sirius XM, and you've got all this different stuff. So it's a really diluted uh, menu anymore for people to choose from. But you can get the information you want to hear from a dozen different sources now instead of just one. And I think that's a big deal. And like we said, the numbers are down, and that makes it hard to sell. We got to take another break. I'm going to be back with Gary, and we're going to get his follow up on this. You're listening to Grilling at the Green. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. We want to thank Squares Golf Shoes, Painted Hills Natural Beef, the Oregon Crab Commission, and everybody else that's associated with this show. And we thank you for listening. And don't forget, we're on the Golf News Network, iHeart 24/7. The show airs twice a week now. So that's all good. Anyway, back to what we were talking about before we went to break, Gary. I just think you've got, for the viewer or the listener, you've got this plethora of choices where it didn't used to be that way. And for the people putting on the event, the event itself, are you going to have all of those options available for your event? Or are you going to only have a couple of them? Which ones are you going to choose?
It's maybe harder to deliver an audience now.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, you're under pressure to jack your purse up, especially in the case of the PGA Tour versus, with Live.
right,
They've jacked their purses way up. The price of sponsoring a tournament has gone way up. The tour is asking these tournaments now, after they jack the purses up to match Live, these sponsors are having to pay, 8 or 10 or $12 million more than they were.
right,
Well, that's why you're starting to see these sponsors leave the tour when their contracts are up, because they've priced themselves out of the market. This thing about, I don't know, you kind of moves into the next part you were going to talk about, but if they're trying to shrink the tour down to 24 events, they're making all the right moves. But I'll tell you right now, less is not more. No matter what they try to tell you, less is always less. And if you think the tour is better with 24 or 20 or 18 events that each one's big, it's not.
yeah,
That's not how. Roy McIlroy said some comments earlier this year about, we're doing this all wrong. We should have, just fewer players in the field and bigger names and all this. And it's like, Rory, what they're doing now is how the tour got here. You're talking about basically closing the door, pulling up the rope behind you. That's great for you. But when you guys get old and can't play anymore, where are your stars going to be? You aren't going to have developed anymore. They're all going to be playing on a mini tour somewhere, and no one's going to know their name.
right.
So somehow the PGA Tour has had a great model for 50 years, but these guys, in their quest for money and power and trying to get less competition and get what they want, play less, make more, they think that's the way to go for them, and they don't care if that affects. And TV thinks, oh, great, if this, they're inching toward the Greg Norman World Tour model.
Yeah.
Let's just have 15 big events with the 60 big names, and we'll play all over the world for big money.
Well,
Okay, but how where those 60 guys, how those 60 guys become big names? Where are they supposed to play? It's a short-sighted model based on greed, and that's where the tour is going. And I don't think it's smart, and I as a viewer, I don't like it at all.
I don't think it's sustainable myself. I think
They're going to put themselves out of business.
yeah, which kind of, when you touched on it there just a second ago, Gary, when you said talking about greed and stuff, they're getting paid to play the Ryder Cup ticks me off, and different people have different opinions of that. I get it, but you're talking to guys that are already making north of 15 to 20 million a year, with not maybe what they get on the tour, but endorsements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sorry folks, but I'm kind of a red, white, and blue guy inside, and I think Gary is too. And there's something to be said playing for your country. They don't pay any expenses now on the President's Cup or the Ryder Cup. They're catered to and all that, and that's fine. But when you say, okay, we're going to throw $500,000 at a player, 300,000 goes to the player and 200,000 goes to your charity of choice or whatever, why not just say you get 200 and it's the 200's got to go to your charity? That's it. If you're going to throw some money at it, that's my take. And
$3,000 to them is like $300 to you and I.
Right.
It's chump change. And the Hatgate with Patrick Cantley at the last one was just classic ugly Americanism at its finest.
Yeah.
He gets all bent out of shape. Well, I'm not going to wear a hat because I'm not being paid. Well, I'll tell you what. How about this? Anybody who wants to insist on getting paid You stay home. I'll go with 12 JT Postons to the Ryder Cup, and I don't care if we lose, but at least we got 12 guys who want to be there. That would be
Right.
my attitude.
Yeah.
If you need $500,000 this bad, then don't play. Stay home. We don't want you. We'd rather have somebody who wants to be there. And I tell you, the scene that really irked me, and never not so much Patrick Cantlay. It was the last day where Justin Thomas didn't wear a hat in France. They weren't in France,
Italy.
in Italy. Well, I was almost going to say same thing, but of course it's not. They were in Italy, and he's playing without a hat, and he finally makes a birdie putt after 2 days of struggling, and he tips his imaginary hat like, he's really showing him something. Meanwhile, the scoreboard says you're losing like 13-8.
Right.
So it's like a football game when a guy scores a touchdown, you're down 27-7, and we just got 7 in your face. Like, check the board, buddy.
Yeah, there's 4 minutes left.
And why are you being a hot dog? Who do you think you're impressing? You just look stupid. So I'm with you on this. Do they really need a couple $100,000 for charity? They spend their whole. I'd say they get nothing. PGA of American, when they first did the charity donation, I think it was '98 because Mark O'Meara was one of the cheapest guys around, was the ringleader of that revolt. I think Mark O'Meara, when he got the money for charity, gave a lot of it to his I don't know if it was his son or his daughter's elementary school. So yeah, great charity. He basically kind of almost went through his own pocket to affect his own kid. It didn't go, and it was probably a private school. I don't recall, but the tour should, the PGA of America should, if they're going to donate to the charity, the tour should, the PGA of America should choose the charities, not the players, and put it in their name. But really, do we have to do that? Why don't you just go play? And if you don't want to play, stay home. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. If you want to make it fun, make it a side bet to whether it's USA or Europe. Whoever wins, somebody put up $1 million for the selective charity for either Europe or that. If you want to throw some money at it, do something like that that's good. You know?
Well, then somebody would complain, oh, you just cost the European charities all this money. Okay, well.
Yeah, I know.
How about the players? Maybe the players all put up the money and everybody drops $100,000 into the pot, and the two teams play for all that money. If you really, but it doesn't make sense. It ruins it's not about money.
No.
Just show up and play for your flag. And again, we're past the time where if you don't want to play, I'm not going to criticize you for that. I'm going to applaud you for admitting, you're a greedy whore dog who wants money, and we don't want you on the team.
There you go. I think I've told you this before, Gary, but I actually enjoy at times watching the President's Cup matches versus the Ryder Cup matches. They're not as prestigious, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that. I just think that at times in the President's Cup, it just seems to be a little more fun. There's less pressure than a Ryder Cup. Now, this is just from a viewer. This is, and I just actually enjoy watching the President's Cup more. So call me crazy, but
I agree. Team match play when it matters is the best format for golf.
Yeah.
It is fun to watch. That's the thing about match play. Every hole has a conclusion, win, lose, or tie. It's not like a guy's playing 18 holes of golf and he's 3 under now. He might get to 4. If Lee Janzen is 7 under in the U.S. Open and 3 holes to go, there's no sweat off my brow if he gets to 8 under or not,
right,
or makes a bogey. But in the Ryder Cup, when there's some national pride involved or whatever, it's fun to watch. And if you can get past the relative meaninglessness of the President's Cup, team match play golf is great. I get sucked in every time, and I always think, yeah, do I care? But you start watching, and it's fun to watch these guys play each other.
Yeah.
And the best thing is match play always becomes personal. Sooner or later, somebody doesn't give a putt or somebody makes a putt on top of somebody, and you can see like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're they're
Yeah.
they're you know they're playing each other instead of the golf course, and that is far more interesting.
I think so too. And I think that um like you said, match play is a lot more fun to watch. It can also make for excuse
But it
me.
has to matter, though, Jeff. It has to matter.
Yeah,
You can just make a match play tournament out of
anything
the
really.
John Deere Classic, and it's not the same. It has to have some significance to make it really fun.
Right. No, I agree. We're going to take a break, come back, wrap up the show with Gary Van Sickle and have more fun. And Gary's going to stick around for after hours. That'll be really fun today. Stay with us. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT. Today we've got Gary Van Sickle, SI.com, formerly SI Big Time. When I say that, I meant when the magazine was Big Time. So did I say
What's a
that okay?
magazine?
Yeah, I don't know. It's well, I saw one in a museum in Hawaii, and so
Well,
that
they still put one out once a month. I don't really know what's in it, but there still is sort of a magazine.
I know
You
they
have to have
still.
something in between swimsuit issues.
I was going to say they still do the
Yeah.
swimsuit issues. So we were talking about match play in the last segment. I actually kind of think it's fun to watch what they did like last week at I guess it was the Grant Thornton, where they were LPGA and PGA Tour players teamed together. And yeah, it doesn't have any national importance other than it's just a fun tournament to watch, I think. Um, and actually, I think if promoted correctly, those could be more of an audience draw, not just in television, but at the tournament themselves. That call me crazy, but I think that's a pretty good formula that really hasn't been pushed for a long time. So there you go.
Well, it's tough when most of your female stars are not American and they're not names that the viewing public knows.
Right.
It's a much tougher sell, than I'm not sure there's ever been a time when we had a lot of Americans that the public, back in the day when the tour was mostly American women, uh, they they were hardly on TV and people didn't know who most of them were then either. So uh, that's an issue the PGA Tour the LPGA has is the international stars. It's hard for Americans to keep straight who's who.
Right. Um, and then there's a bunch of them from the LPGA stepping away now. Lexi is doing that. Oh, I'm
I'm going to say
spacing.
Marina Alex. She's
Yeah,
stepping away.
yeah, and a couple other ones there. Very solid players, all of them. Brittany Lincecum.
Yeah.
They've all been major winners and different things like that, and they're kind of stepping away.
Now, if you want to have a family, it's tough to keep
It
playing
is.
as a woman. The guys can still do it because the wife can stay home, but the women it physically takes it's just you're taking a year and a half off.
Yeah,
And honestly, after you have a child, your interest in being away from home probably is reduced
very,
next to nothing. So
very limited.
um, it makes a lot. It's not fun to be away from home or be away from your kid. So
No.
I totally understand women generally have shorter careers because of that. And yeah, go out and live a real life. You should do that.
Well, and it's like Lexi said when they asked her about it, and this was this last summer after she announced it. She goes, "Yeah, I don't want to play a full schedule anymore. I want to select them." She goes, "I'm kind of interested in like, having a full-time relationship, maybe getting married, having a kid." I mean, she just went right down the list of everything you and I have talked about, and she just said, "I can't do it when I'm doing what I'm doing right now. It's just too
How
hard."
many Holiday Inns do you have to stay in before it gets old?
Yeah. And to me, wasn't very many, to do
Yeah.
that. Real quick, because we just got a couple minutes left, but we'll pick this up in after hours. Greg Norman seems to be okay with not being at the helm of Live.
Well, what's he gonna say?
Not much.
I got
I
sacked. he didn't, you know, it didn't work out. Liv did accomplish some things. It made a lot of money for the players on the PGA Tour, who the tours tried to match a lot of the things they've done, but Live, I don't think, has really gained any traction with American viewers, and I don't know about the rest of the world. I feel like maybe it's got a bigger following overseas, and maybe you and I talked about this. To me, Live should just play all their events overseas because that's where there's more interest, I think.
Yeah.
These places like Australia, where they're golf crazy country, but they don't have many events. And when they do, their big events aren't well supported by sponsors. They have live events, they get some famous names there and they get big money and everyone's excited. I mean, I did happen to catch again, it didn't have a tournament name, but they were in Australia. I want to say Adelaide, but I could be wrong. And it went to a playoff and they had a team playoff thing. And one of the Australian guys was in the playoff. I mean, the place was going crazy. It
Sure.
was really thrilling atmosphere like a US Open or an Open Championship would have been. So they had that, but they should just go overseas and do that and leave. Quit trying to go head to head with against the tour, which is what I think that Norman's really his goal was to stick it to the tour and take them down, beat them at their own game, and having tournaments 2 weeks before the U.S. Open up against other big events, you weren't going to win that. So I don't know. Yeah, Greg didn't have any say about this. He got booted out. His
Yeah.
contract ran out, and he's got to put a good face on it because he's Greg Norman. He's got a little bit of an ego, just like most people do.
That's going to wrap it up with Gary and I on the regular show here. We're coming up with after hours out of that. Gary, I want you to have a great Christmas. Did you ever get that bathroom painted downstairs?
Oh yeah, oh
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I had my minions do it. No, I did it myself. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Great. Uh, we wish you all also a very Merry Christmas that's coming up, and we'll be back after the first of the year. Until then, go out, play some golf, have some fun. Most of all, be kind. Take care, everybody. Welcome to After Hours here on Grilling at the Green. We welcome you and thank you for sharing your earlobes with us, or your ear canals, or whatever it is. We were talking about Greg Norman when we finished the show, Gary. Uh, Norman out. I think, like you said, contract expired, get him out of there. I actually think that was probably one of the sticking points for any type of, what do I want to say, agreement going forward. Because I don't think, Tiger can't stand him, and Tiger's on that committee, and Monahan probably listens to Tiger, I would think, and among other
Well,
people.
yeah, Greg led the rebellion, so Monahan and all the tour guys, are 100% against him too. And I'm not sure a lot of the live guys don't trust Monahan as far as they can throw him, so he might need to be out of the way before any deal is reached. I mean, you've heard the rumors that they're thinking about letting the Saudis invest in the PGA Tour. Like, well, it'll be interesting to see what Brandel Chambly says about that, since the tour effectively employs him at Golf Channel. If he's going to keep up his nonstop diatribe against the Saudis, Rory goes and plays in the UAE and wins the race to Dubai and all that, and that seems to be okay. I don't hear any complaints about that, but um,
Yeah.
the whole live thing was Brandel stood on what he considered the moral high ground, and it's hard to say he's wrong, but he harped on it for a long time. So I don't know what's going to happen. To me, it's hard to see there ever being an agreement because one side wants to, their only goal is to eliminate the other side.
Right.
The tour wants to eliminate live, and they're not going to be happy until they're in a live free world. And so that kind of makes negotiating, that's kind of a sticking point. It's a stopper in negotiations.
Well, one of the things too, and you touched on it, and this was on my chat list today, is in my side of the ledger here, The bets are that, of course, NBC is spinning off Golf Channel and USA Networks and all that stuff. My guess, and we'll talk about this later and see what happens, but it'll probably be a year from now, is they'll strip the rights out of Golf Channel, the PGA and LPGA Tour rights. And if they did that, that's a sure walk on for Live to get their reach on far better than the CW. The numbers aren't that much better, but they do have a bigger reach than the CW. And that would be my guess, is that NBC retains the rights because they've got Peacock, and Peacock's doing very well for them in certain areas. And that, I think that's probably what will happen.
Well, they need content, and to go a step further, it seems like I think the PGA Tour already owns a piece of Golf Channel. Golf Channel's not making much in the way of money. They might even be losing money. I'm not sure, but if they spin it off, the PGA Tour built this new, we call it the Death Star, this new big headquarters, production facility, everything. Starting next year, I believe, or unless they're already doing it. It's one of the reasons Lanny Watkins is leaving the senior tour announcing booth, is because instead of sending the announcers out to the tournament sites, they're going to have to go to the Death Star in Ponte Vedra and sit in a little room and watch monitors and call the action from there.
Right.
And he told me 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, I'm not, so when they do that, I'm done. I'm not doing that. So it makes sense that the PGA Tour winds up being the majority owner of Golf Channel, and or maybe just keeping the rights themselves and doing their own production, and Golf Channel's out, and the PGA Tour produces PGA Tour tournaments, and then Golf Channel needs something to show. So there's a lot of possibilities, but you're going to have the same people who make sure the announcers are boring. They're going to be in charge of the entire production of the telecast. So if there's a fist fight breaks out among a couple players on the seventh tee, you can be sure that you won't see that on TV.
Right.
Because that's not good for the brand. It's going to be propaganda. So that's the problem with having something like that happen. But yeah, I don't know where Liv's going to land. I think if they're going to be on Peacock, NBC is going to want a more interesting format. That team thing, even though it's different, is impossible to show and make interesting when the players are all in different groups.
Right.
And they're not playing matches against each other. It's not like the Ryder Cup. You got 4 guys, 5 guys, and Bubba Watson just made a bogey, but Mark Leishman made a birdie over. Like, it's hard to keep up. I think if they had just made that a team league, like a franchises in baseball, and had trades and a draft, maybe that would have been more interesting. But you still left with a problem. It's like, if you've watched college golf in NCAA championship, the guys are all in different holes. It's hard to team golf does not televise well. So I think if I was at NBC and I wanted to show Liv, I'd tell Liv, you got to kiss that team stuff goodbye. It's buzzkill. We're going to focus on the individual thing like everybody else. And maybe we'll have a couple other wrinkles and just 54 holes of stroke play. And maybe we should have a cut. Maybe that makes it more exciting.
Yeah.
Maybe these guys who are all so fat and happy might have a little more sense of urgency if they get cut and only get paid a $20,000 appearance fee for showing up, because nobody wants that. Have to go halfway around the world. So I don't know what the answer is, but I've always thought there's room for another tour in golf. They just need to be more selective about when and where they play it. Certainly September, October, November, December.
Yes.
Not a lot of PGA Tour events that are drawing big numbers. That is a weak spot in the PGA Tour blanket. And if I was Liv, I'd try to exploit that. But I don't know. We'll see where that goes. But we could see some big changes. I agree with what you said. Honestly, anything could happen.
A successful business model, things that I've seen, is that instead of doing what Norman did, which was to come in and poke the bear and do this, they do something like you just explained, which was there's room for another tour. You can expand it and you do it gradually and you just keep building and building and building. Well, when you've got the Saudis, oil money on a spigot in the back of your car, you're not going to run out. So go big or go home type thing. But with all the hype and everything, how you're not holding anything, meaning you're not holding the audience, you're not holding the interest in the press. You've done stuff already to tick people off. Like here out at Pumpkin Ridge, that first year of the live, and they came to town here in Portland and they made changes and they actually had to use both courses to make their 18 work for them and that. And when they left town, it was like, see ya. And Pumpkin lost members over that. A lot of people resigned their membership and stuff for whatever reason. That's their reasoning. But you took the money, you altered the course, and now they're gone. And they're not coming back to Portland. All right.
Didn't leave any money for charity.
No.
Didn't do anything, and they don't have a business model. They just rely on billions. Basically they're running a business at a deficit of who knows how many hundreds of million every year. So if they had to compete as a business, they aren't even in the ballpark.
No.
So I don't know, but they don't have to because they've got unlimited funds. It's the perks of having a sugar daddy with rich pockets.
I was going to say, it's just like having your uncle paying for you to go to private school, college, med school, whatever, and you never see the bill. You know what I mean? It's just that type of thing in my mind.
You're a starving artist, but your rich daddy's dropping $500,000 on you to be a starving artist, and he's supporting you. But
yeah,
all you can paint is stick figures. But you're making money from your daddy. Yay!
You're eating at Ruth Chris every other Saturday night. So yeah, I feel for you. Type thing. I just we've had a lot of changes in the world of professional golf, and we talked about that in the first show. There's some rule changes. You know what I would like to see? Everybody complains about slow play. Okay. And now they've got stuff in there where you can be penalized for slow play. And I think we saw maybe one instance of it this year that I was aware of. Put that stuff on the screen. Put it out there. If they like in soccer, you get a warning card, and then if the second one you get the red card and you're penalized or whatever, and do that. I would like to see things like that to actually show that they're serious about this, as far as at the competition level. And I don't think they'll do it, but I'd like to see it.
Well, the answer, every major sport has a shot clock now that baseball's gotten in there, and they've all worked incredibly well. And people say, oh, you can never do that in golf. Well, I just had a story on the first call. You can see it on Substack. It's already been done. Golf needs a shot clock. The European Tour had the shot clock masters in 2017 or 18, and it follows the guidelines. The first guy to hit had 40 or 50 seconds. The next person had 40 seconds. And once everybody was alerted to that, and they have somebody with a shot with a clock taking around on each hole. Once the players were alerted to that, guess what? They all got their shots off inside of 30 to 40 seconds.
Yeah.
And they knocked 35 minutes off the pace of play, even in the first two rounds. So instead of a 4 hour and 45-minute round, they had played in 4:10, just like in baseball, knocked off, 30 or 40 minutes. It's a simple solution. The our PGA Tour already has half the army out on there with a signboards and this and that, and you have an official scorekeeper. I don't know. Do we need a walking score anymore? I'm not sure why. It's easily done, and only 2 players in the shot clock masters got penalties, and they both, or maybe 4, I think it was 4, And all of them said, you know why they got penalties? They forgot there was a shot clock because it was the first time.
Right.
How many pitchers got a ball called because they didn't get a pitch off in time? I don't think I ever saw it happen.
No.
I'm sure it did a few times, but it's a problem that's solvable. And it's not the size of the field that's really the main cause of slow play in the tour. It's the kabuki dance on the greens, lining up putts where they take forever, and it's how far they hit the ball. Almost every par five is reachable for more than half the field in two. And oh, this trendy thing of we got to have a drivable par four. Well, what does that do to the pace of play? It stacks everybody up on the tee.
Sure.
And it's not even so much that the pace of play is slow, that the players have log jams and are forced to wait to play because the ball goes too far. So either move all the par fives back to 680 yards, get rid of this fakey drivable par four. It's a par four. It's not supposed to be drivable. That would, but we don't have the land, so that's not fixable. So a shot clock solves a lot of the problems. You should go to that before you start shutting the door and shrinking the field and keeping tomorrow's stars out of the game because there's no room. And oh yeah, the guys who are already rich are afraid some of these guys might be able to beat them.
Yep. That's,
Shot clock masters. That's what we want.
you know what, the other thing I think they should do, the tour, I think they should, in the senior tour, I think they should move the age to 45. Give them an option. Okay.
Well, that would be an interesting experiment. I think at that point, the guys at 45 will dominate, and anybody over the age of 50, 52 is kind of, you're just going to move the window of opportunity lower. But I just played golf at a friend's outing at the cricket club in Philadelphia. And we walked 18 holes. It was a fun thing. I played with Jim Herman, a three-time winner on the PGA Tour. He's 47.
Mm-hmm.
He had no place to play unless he gets in on his past champion status, which is like twice a year. This guy still plays great. So to your point, Jeff, if he was on the senior tour at age 47, he'd be winning a lot of money. But
Yeah.
he's a man without a country unless he wants to go play in some Corn Ferry events. So I don't know if that's a solution, but I think the problem with senior golf is we're out of superstars who are playing it. I don't know that Tiger can physically get around 18 holes, even in a cart, 4 days in a row or 3 days in a row.
Right.
That's one of the things we're going to find out here in the PNC Championship and maybe early in the year at Riviera. But I don't know the answer, but we know what the questions are.
Yeah. Well, we're good at that, asking the questions, but if we knew the answers, they would be calling you for a television gig, and me.
Well, we're going to find out how much Tiger has left. He's going to play in the TGL, the simulator thing. There was some video online on Twitter showed Tiger hitting into this big jumbotron screen, and then he watched the arc, the tracer of his ball flight on the screen. If you saw that and didn't kind of think, "Oh, that's kind of cool," then I'll be surprised because I tell people, "Oh, this simulator thing could be big," and they're like, "I'm not gonna, no, I'm out. I'm not gonna watch a video game." It's not a video game.
Yeah.
Simulator golf is better than you think if you haven't played it. And where simulator golf falls down is chipping and putting, but they're going to have a real green there. They're really going to chip and they're really going to putt on grass. So, and ESPN's the kings of promotion running it. So
Yeah.
I think it might be pretty successful. We'll see.
I hope so. Because one thing, and then we'll wrap this up, Gary, but one thing, since the tour kind of changed its schedule, moved all the majors earlier in the year for the most part, kind of dies off in August, if you will. And yeah, we got the FedEx thing, but things that's easy, things that's entertaining to
How dare
watch.
you criticize the holy FedEx Cup, which is the greatest championship in the world, Jeff? I'm shocked.
I think they should just put ATMs out there and say, okay, here, you take 10 million. Here's your annuity for 10 million and go home.
There should be one on every tee box. Saw you made a birdie. Here's $10,000 in $100 bills.
Yeah.
That would be that's what the equivalent. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, but it's
you're going to
true.
criticize the FedEx Cup, which is based entirely on money. I mean, it's the ultimate American tournament.
I guess you could look at it that way.
That's all the PGA Tour has. You know, they'd like to make the Players Championship a major, but they don't have enough history. The only thing the tour has to entice players to play is more money. And now these top guys have so much money, the money's not even enticement. So get back to your point about the Ryder Cup. What do they care about $500,000 for a Ryder? I mean,
Yeah.
they already got more money than they'll ever spend. The money's not an enticement for them, for the top players. You know, it is for you and I. We're available. I
Yeah.
mentioned Holiday Inn earlier. I got room on their logo right here.
Yeah. I can do one on the sweater or get a different hat. I just would like to see the broadcast. That's why I'm excited about the TGL. Okay. I am. And I am kind of interested to see what happens with getting rid of the not getting rid of it, but Golf Channel leaving NBC. And I know they'll push more on Peacock, but they've, like I said, they've already got stuff set up with the Golf Channel in USA and TNT and those types of things. So there might at some point more golf television come in the fall. And because it's interesting. And the other thing is people can't go outside. I mean, you've got a fairly nice day in Pittsburgh today, and I've got a normal Northwest gray, grimy day here. But the point is, a lot of days we can't go out and play golf this time of year. So maybe we could watch something that's entertaining. I don't know.
Well, the
Call me crazy.
TGL is a very expensive experiment, and it's got Tiger Woods involved, and it's got ESPN, and it's got more than $1 billion invested into it. It might be too big to fail. Pardon the expression. So I'm somewhere between excited and really curious. I think it's going to work, but I'm not, I play a lot of simulator golf in the winter, so I'm not your average fan, but I think it's got a chance.
Well, I'm interested to see it, and excuse me, gosh. I think it'll work too. I think it's got a good chance myself. Anyway, Gary, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, my friend.
Merry Christmas to you, Jeff.
And when it snows back there, just think of me out here in the rain. So there you go. It's equally as annoying.
You don't have to shovel rain. I'll give you that.
No, but sometimes we have to get a canoe to get to the car. So that's the deal here. Anyway, we're going to get out of here, Gary Van Sickle. Gary, tell them about your podcast real quick before we go.
I have a podcast on YouTube, The Golf Show 2.0. Co-host is Kathy Bissell, who founded the original golf show in the 80s and early 90s. She had a national syndicated show. Really, PGA Tour kind of borrowed her idea for Inside the PGA Tour. It was a half-hour show, and we were looking for something to do, and she thought about doing a podcast, and I came up with why don't I just call it Revive Your Show. We have people on, and like you and I on. We have somebody on, we talk for half an hour, and we get out. So we've had Joe Theismann promoting the celebrity golf in Lake Tahoe, and a lot of other interesting guests. So some authors, you name it. Had a couple of former players, Larry Mize, Tom Purtzer.
Sure.
All the big names of golf, and some equipment people. You never know who's going to turn up. So
maybe we get her and you on this show in the near future.
You can just get her, have her on and talk about how she got that show on the air and how she kept it going, because she really did it by herself. And she had Jay Randolph as the host.
Yeah. Well,
he was behind the scenes, really. So she's actually done some things in golf, and we're both on the back ends of our career. She lives in Ponte Vedra. I live in Pittsburgh, and we just thought it'd be fun.
All right. We'll do that. And I'll get her on, but then we'll get a double header with the both of you. See if I can get you guys going at each other a little bit there.
Well, we'll be on different screens, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Gary, thank you. Everybody go out there. Have a great Christmas from all the folks here, which is me and Marvin, my cat today. But have a great Christmas and a great New Year's, and we'll talk soon. Take care, everybody.